Thank you, Andrea. So yes, my name is John Whall. I'm the Digital Participation Curator at Quad in Derby, and I'm also a freelance creative digital producer and consultant, primarily working with the participatory arts sector. And today I'm going to talk to you about participant-led engagement and the reimagining of exhibitions and collections using immersive technologies. And I would like to just thank Arts and Culture Management Conference for having me today. It's a great pleasure to be here. So as I said, I'm the Digital Participation Curator at Quad in Derby, and I'm responsible for developing the delivery of Quad's participatory and creative wellbeing programs, engaging participants in arts and culture through digital media. I also lead the Digital Participation Expedition with the East Midlands Participatory Arts Forum here in the UK, EMPAP. And through that, we're exploring what we mean by digital participation in arts and culture. I'm also the digital part champion for Artworks Alliance, which is a national body championing participatory arts and participatory artists. I'm alumni to Extend Leadership Programme, which is run by Engage, and joined the Engage Council in 2019, and I'm also very passionate about leading authentic participation, which enables a participant-first approach to working with and within the mediums of digital. So here is just a kind of brief look at the types of audiences that I work with when we talk about participant groups, from parents to young children to older people to children. We work with a lot of children who have additional support needs. So going straight in, because I've got a lot to show you today, and hopefully it doesn't go too fast for you, but give you an idea of what we talk about, what we can do with immersive technologies. So immersive technologies, I really like this infographic for demonstrating the differences in immersive technologies. So we have on the left-hand side VR, which is full immersion in a virtual environment, augmented reality, where we can take digital items, digital objects, and overlay them into the real world, and mixed reality, which is where something in the real world can affect something in the digital world, either virtual or augmented. Today, I'm just going to stick with virtual and augmented reality and give you some examples of things you can do with your participant groups and audiences. So I think it's really important that we talk about the technologies that we use. Sometimes it can be a bit baffling, and sometimes it's not easy to understand the different things out there. So the technologies I'm going to reference today are the HTC Vive VR headset, which you can see right here. When I go into VR, you may find that I'm talking about something but not looking at it. If that's the case, just put that in the chat for me, and someone on the tech side of the conference can notify me. That'd be great, because what I'm looking at and where my eyes are isn't always what's obvious on screen. I'll be using the Unreal Game Engine, which is primarily used in the gaming industry, but also in architecture and as well as arts and culture. Matterport scans, which are 3D scans of environments, so they take depth as well as image. Clone smartphone app, which you can get on your phone. You can use that to scan items and objects. AR Eyes, which is something that you can use to take those objects once they've been scanned and digitized and put them in the real world through AR. Tiltbrush VR app, and something quite new, which is called New Art City, which is put together as a toolkit that's put together by some artists in the US about March time as a response to artists not being able to show work in galleries. It's an online VR, it's an online space for exhibitions, and I'll show you an example of that in a moment. I'd also like to give special thanks to V21 Artspace. A lot of what you're going to see today is through exploration and development with them. I do advise, if you're going to work with immersive technologies or do work with immersive technologies, that you get an industry partner that you can have as a critical friend, someone you can talk through your processes with. They will have insights that you probably won't, and vice versa. So thanks to V21 Artspace for their support with this. So I'm going to go straight to the beginning, and the beginning is a project called Animating, and this is a VR gallery that with V21 Artspace we devised to show off British animation as part of the celebration in 2018. As you can see, we can move around the space, we can look around the space, and there's a number of animated artworks, both past and present, that's been seen from international artists to UK contributors. But really, it's this piece over here by Light Surgeons that I want to highlight. And this is a piece called Seeing Sound. It was a participant-made piece of work. It involved both hearing and deaf audiences. And the deaf audiences wore rumble packs, digital rumble packs, that allowed them to hear the music that was being created created in the workshop space and respond to it through animation. That animation then fed back into the music process. And the reason I highlight this is when we had our Arts Council inspection, one of the things that was noted in it was the inclusion of participant-made work in immersive technologies. It wasn't something that was really being done back then, and not really many examples now. So, excuse me if I'm hitting my my headset. So that's an example where we started, and what myself and V21 really wanted to do was look at how we incorporate more participant-made or participant-created work in virtual and gallery spaces. So I started to experiment. And one thing that really came to me at the time is this idea of pipelines, and the technology that's used within kind of the work that I've been doing is also used in the gaming industries. And if we think about pipelines, it allows participants to have points in the process where they can contribute. So they have more control within the process itself. The creative process is more collaborative and co-produced rather than participants making or interacting with collections of work at the beginning. An artist, technician takes it away and then comes back later. And it also offers skill development in one or more areas that can complement and relate to the whole. So it's really about piecing together the puzzle and giving opportunities throughout the process. It also means that there's more and more opportunities for access. You'll see in a moment when I go through Tiltbrush. Tiltbrush is a fantastic tool. You don't have to have a huge amount of skill to be able to use it, and it's very, very, very accessible. So to start with, this is a project where I worked with the Creative Collection, in, oh, sorry, I get the Creative Collective at the Collection and Usher Gallery in Lincoln in the UK, on the east side of the UK. And what we did is they responded to the collections within the museum and gallery themselves. They created physical responses, so the busts down there in the bottom right, and then the vase made out of tinfoil in the top right. And they scanned them using Clone. And you can see on the left-hand side there, just the kind of an idea of the process with Clone. When you move your camera around, there's a piece of paper with a printout so the camera can see where it's scanning. And then through the app itself, you can then place the objects in real life through AR. And then what we were able to do is take that process even further. So I'm just going to kind of launch Tiltbrush for you and show you that I've lost control over my mouse. There we go. Okay, and when Tiltbrush opens up, I'll show you the process that we went through. So this is about taking items in the collection and the responses to that, those items that you just saw there, and bringing them into a virtual space. Now, at first, we looked at items within the collection, and we were very fortunate that the Collection and Usher Gallery worked with an artist, Oliver Larrick, way back in, say, 2014, I think it was. So the quality of these scans that he made from the collection at the time are fantastic for how early on in technology it was. So we have a lovely bust of Tennyson here, and we worked with the participants to talk through the stories about this bust, this idea of self and identity, and what that meant to them. So it started to explore things like we talked about Snapchat filters and facial filters, and what that could mean to kind of how we overlay that onto Tennyson here, okay? And we thought, and working with young people, we thought, well, what happens if he felt that he needed to have more hair in his bust here? And so we could put that onto Tennyson without affecting the actual physical work. And that's what's really great about this process. It means that you can adapt to reimagine the work without kind of affecting it. And then, we went through when we spoke about, well, what happens if he was unhappy with this experience that he was going through, or what was happening to him. So he may have got a bit kind of steamy-eared and angry. Okay, and then the thing with that is once we've interacted with the work in this way, we can get rid of the 3D model, and what we're left with is something that we can export and bring into AR. Okay, now I can't demonstrate physically today AR, but what I can do is give you an idea of what that might look like. So we can go to the actual bust of Tennyson in the exhibition, and overlay this digital response onto the physical item itself. And the other thing with that as well is, it's not just about the items that are in the collection. We scanned young people's work. Okay, we took their work, their responses to the collection, and they had things they wanted to say about it. They wanted to explore this further. Okay, they wanted to kind of say, well, what does my work look like when I augment it, I suppose, in this way? And these are some of the kind of, I'm just demonstrating some of the things that these young people did. Okay, so they put their own flowers in. Okay, and then, what happens if we take these items and again, with AR, place them in next to the real world objects. Okay, so that's an idea of when we worked with objects and when we worked with just the single items. But then what happens if you have a whole exhibition? And this is where I think things get really exciting, because through AR, you can completely change an exhibition without affecting the intentions of the artist or the exhibition space itself. You're keeping those things whole whilst allowing a participant response. Now here, this is what you get with Matterport scans. Okay, so this is the raw data. This is what happens kind of in between the process. You've taken the scans, and it's before everything's refined and processed. So here, really, this example, this picture here, if you go to V21's website, this is the quality that you'll see. It's quite high quality at the moment. This is just a stitching together of all the images before things are processed. Okay. But what we can do in this space, let me just come over here. What we can do in this space is participants can respond to the artwork. Kanye West being a figure that's quite controversial in parts, you can have the conversation about his role within this exhibition. Now, this exhibition is by Jerry Holder. It's called A Credo. It's about the Deep Belief Network. It has a lot of kind of conspiracy theories and belief. But, what if, and especially in young people, what if they want to change how Kanye is represented here? They can do so without affecting the physical work. They might want to put his glasses over his eyes. Okay, they may want to just change his presence. For some reason, I like beards. Whenever I get a VR kind of thing with beards, I like changing the beards. So I'm going to do that here. Okay. I'm going very, very quickly. Obviously, my art skills and my design skills aren't really kind of showing here, but you kind of get an idea. And the other thing as well is, this exhibition did deal with the idea of aliens and extraterrestrial beings. And what happens when a young person or an artist or a community participant wants to create their own being as part of that exhibition and put that in the space. So, anyone familiar with X-Files or conspiracy theories around aliens, you're probably familiar with the grey kind of character that's normally referenced. Again, excuse my crude drawings there. But that's a piece that they can then take, and through AR, if we get rid of the model itself, you can see these pieces. Let me bring these over here. I do not know which orientation I am at the moment with people, so if I do have my back to the camera right now, I do apologize. But you can take this work and you can place it in those spaces through AR. And again, I'm just demonstrating of what that could look like right now. Okay, so walking into the gallery space with these digital artworks with a camera and viewing them in the physical gallery space, I quite like that, and I find it quite exciting. The other thing I quite like, and it's quite exciting, is throwing things away like that. I like it. There we go. And just another example of that there is, this is the Format, I think it's this one, the Format International Photography Festival that we house here at Quad. This is the 2019 festival that looked at the theme of evidence. Okay, and what's really nice about this exhibition and using the scans in this way, as you'll see in a moment when it loads through, is that the curators really had a lot to think about placement of work and the inclusion of work. There's a lot of work in this space. Okay, I'm just trying to get the level here my floor height and the floor height of this. So, we look around, and the things that you can do in this space, you can make connections to artworks that may not have been connected by the curators themselves, but you can have this conversation with participant groups about, that piece might connect to that piece, and what happens with that piece, and does it connect to this one over here? Okay, you can start having those conversations, and participants can really examine those works. Okay, and then also one thing that always kind of draws my eye with this exhibition was this work on here, and the fact that it's on fire. And I always wondered what happens if you walk into the gallery one day and that piece of work is actually on fire. How's it going to affect the rest of the gallery space? So, we can draw it as if it's on fire. Okay, and does that spread through to other artworks? Okay, does it go through to the other side? Okay, we can then add embers on there. Okay, and then if it does go through to the other side, and I'm not trying to be provocative here, but what does that mean when something we created on one side pulls through and kind of affects the other side? Okay, and one thing I quite like as well, this corner over here, the gentleman sat down. I always wonder what the connection between that suit jacket there and the suit and him is, and I can bring him in, and maybe I can create the suit for him, and tell that story. And again, this is kind of the idea, is that participants are trying to explore this work through the themes, and bring their own kind of questions and own thoughts to this. Again, please ignore my very crude, very quick drawings. Okay, and again, we can then take, if I can capture it, where is it? We take 3D model, we take it away, and what we're left with is the pieces themselves that we can then, through AR, through something like AR Rise, go into those galleries and hold up a phone, and see what everyone else, what people can't see, okay, and have our responses there. So just bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to have a look to see where I am in my presentation. Okay.
You still have about 10 minutes, so yeah, enjoy.
That's great. I've got 2 very, very quick things to show you then. Now, this is a project that's run by Nottingham Contemporary, again here in the UK, a neighbouring organisation. And this is a project where they worked with young people. I've just given away most of my presentation with some of these items here. There we go. And this was about reimagining workshops within virtual spaces. So this was a response to the Still Undead exhibition around popular culture in Britain beyond the Bauhaus, and Still I Rise around gender, feminism, and resistance. And the process was looking at the project translating between physical and digital, okay, where digital aids the themes and retains learning focus and provides new experiences within the classroom. Digital, it removes the barriers for engagement. So anyone who does work in education, the problem sometimes of getting classrooms to come to the exhibition spaces. So this was about taking the exhibitions to the classrooms themselves. The project retains both physical and digital aspects, not delivering digital just for the sake of it, but providing an access need. And the blending learning models offers new approaches to learning within the classroom. And it responds to the final version. So this is just an example, this is not Nottingham Contemporary, but an example of that scan that I showed earlier. But their response is the final version. You can see here, they were using touchscreens, and they were also using VR headsets. Now, what was happening with that was that they were taking the embedded content, they were embedding the content from the gallery, the classroom experience, 360 footage and the work that the children were creating, and putting that back into the digital gallery, virtual gallery space. So it means that when you go online and you go to view this work, you actually have a link in there to see the classroom experience, just like you would when you walked into a gallery and there's a classroom and they're working and experiencing exhibition. But from that as well, there was also an additional output of what happens when you take the items and take the responses and put them into an empty gallery space. Okay. And then you start looking at young people as curators in a blank space, and thoughts around young people as curator and technicians. Okay. So they're not just reimagining the works, but they're reimagining the resources and reimagining the processes as well. So I'm just going to kind of come out of VR and just very, very quickly, finally, show you something that I think is more relevant to today, where we work remotely. So this is Unreal. Okay, I do have some slight issues that I can't expand the screen for you, but you can see here this is a virtual gallery in the Unreal Engine, and you can see some items that have been made by participants in the space. Over there is a Nigerian statue that was part of the Oliver Larrick scans. This does make me slightly sick, moving around like this. But these are participant-made creations, and again, they're at a scale that that isn't real life. And participants really like that when they can see something they've made at such a huge scale. Now, the problem with this is that it's quite technical. It isn't very pipeline friendly. You know, when I talk about pipelines. And it means someone has to go away and do something with the work that's being created. But what I'm really excited about, as I said earlier, is New Art City. Now, we're working with New Art City on an exhibition festival for Format International Photography Festival. But the way this process works, this is through a web browser. And it means that you can invite collaborators, and they can all upload their own work from their own homes. If we think about using Clone to scan work that's made in responses to artwork and collections at home, we're talking remotely, you know, we're locked down, there's a global pandemic, we can work remotely. They can scan them through their own smartphones, they can upload them into this space, and then they can all come together to curate the space at the same time. So the process becomes very collaborative. I've lost control of my mouse for some reason, so I'll try and walk you around. But you can see, you know, we can add videos of the process and other things that they explored through. Oh, I've completely lost control of my mouse. I do apologize. Oh, there we go. Through the process itself. So this I put together just an example of a lot of the different processes that I've talked about today. And also, I mean, using the Clone app, it's not 100% perfect in terms of output. So you're not going to get high-end, high-quality output, but it gives participants an opportunity to take part. You'll use a different technology to get really high-quality scans. So I'm going to leave that there. I know that was very fast, and I know there was a lot there to show you. So thank you very much. I think we have time for questions. Does anyone have anything they want to ask?
Yes. From what I can see, some people have been very active in the chat area,
Okay.
and even I have a couple of questions, but I'll
Sure.
give priority to our dear audiences. So let's see, question-wise from Anastasia. Let's see, do you only involve the participants on place in Derby, or virtual participation and curation exhibition is possible as well? If yes, how? And are you familiar with the German initiative Museum 4.0 or 0?
I'm not familiar with that museum, no. The examples today that I've showed you are actually from around the East Midlands, so it's not just here in Derby. Mm-hmm. And the last process that I showed was something that I'm really excited about, and it's something where my research is going to be going next, and that is looking about how we engage participants with collections all over the world. You know, there's a lot of virtual galleries and a virtual showing of exhibitions, and because of the global pandemic, you know, that's something that happened so fast when lockdown first happened last year. But then it's how we get participants to respond to that in their own spaces, and how we engage them, and then how we bring them together into virtual spaces and make the process collaborative. And that's, again, what I'm really excited about with New Art City, because that is a process we can create virtual immersive exhibitions without kit and through web browsers and from anywhere in the world.
Yeah, indeed, having access to the actual device that makes it all possible is very important and sometimes a challenge. So yeah, having it through a browser, I think it's a very good solution to that, a bit more inclusive and accessible. And now from my side, how are you working in general? How have you developed this initiative? Is it part of an artistic program or some funding you've received? Are you being commissioned by different galleries, or are you kind of proactively going out and kind of introducing this model to different galleries and museums? How does that work?
So a lot of this so far has just been exploratory in terms of the different organisations and groups that we've worked with. We've looked at a different process depending on who we've engaged, and they have artists. We had some Maktab artists over from India as part of an exhibition here. I want to say last year before. So participants, artists as participants as well. We've worked with them. The idea at the moment is this is a lot of different bits of research that have come together with this kind of pipeline thinking that I mentioned right at the beginning. And I am in the process of applying for funding to take that research personally further, but also to work with arts organisations to help them realise what they can do with this as well. So my next stage is applying for funding. It has been quite difficult because trying to get the narrative over technology and participation to funders isn't always easy, and a lot of funders kind of get what you're doing, but they want to see kind of like a commercial output. They want to see like a sellable product at the end, and for me, that's not the purpose of this process. The purpose is providing access and participation to people who might not engage with these technologies.
That's very noble, and I do prefer your approach. So yeah, hopefully it will be seen as more valuable by more funders. I guess, yeah, now with the pandemic especially, people tend to be a bit more materialistic in their planning or in their approach. So maybe that's why a bit of reluctance from funders, but hopefully in the future it will kind of grow. And this kind of links to another question I have, and sorry that I'm kind of taking over. I'll go back to the audience. But how are you assessing or analyzing the behavior experience that your people taking part in this experiencing collections in VR and AR? How are you measuring their experience and their behavior? If you haven't already mentioned, sorry.
Yeah, so I have a series of questions that I use within a lot of the different digital processes and activities. I actually use a tool called Kahoot, Kahoot, which is used a lot by education. It's actually a tool that's used for kind of creating quizzes within classrooms and things like that. But I find it a really engaging method of collecting feedback from participants. It means that you kind of can make a game out of feedback, and it means that you can pull all that information together, and with a series of kind of repeated questions throughout different activities and engagements, you kind of get an idea of people's understanding of digital, not just about understanding of immersive technologies.
Very much. It's a good tool to use. I used it before in different contexts, but it's a nice one to use. Federico Escribal, he's one of our other presenters who had his session just earlier, and he said during your presentation that it remembered him of the Russian pavilion at Venice Biennale in 2017, which was completely designed in immersive technologies, and he dropped the link in the chat as well for people to see. So yeah, it's really interesting to see how over time this evolved more and more. And I feel that, yeah, as you said, now with the pandemic, it's been more of an opportunity to kind of use it, because obviously we cannot have experiences in real life anymore. I think I also had something else in mind, but I can't remember at the moment. But
I'd just like
yeah.
to say on that point then, if I can, that sometimes the terminology can be really difficult to get your head around. And when we say immersive technologies and when we say virtual reality and augmented reality, especially virtual reality, people always think that you have to have a headset and have to have something, you immerse yourself in a virtual world. But as New Art City is showing with their toolkit, and Mozilla has hubs as well, a virtual reality is just a reality that you can immerse yourself in. You don't have to have a headset to do that. And Zeppelin Museum in, I think it's Friedrichshafen in South Germany. I might completely mispronounce the town's name. I do apologize. They had a fantastic exhibition a few years ago that really delved into that, what we mean by virtual reality and immersing yourself in worlds without the use of headsets.
Thank you very much. Well, please feel free to, I'm now addressing to everyone who has been watching your presentation. Please do get in touch with John if you want to learn more about what he's doing. Go onto those links that are on his slide at the moment to check more about his work. And hopefully this event kind of sparked your interest in just exploring more the digital technologies we have available to engage with people. What I wanted to notice earlier was that basically I feel that giving people the possibility to kind of play around with the collection in a creative way, reimagining them, I think it kind of breaks the barriers that sometimes I encountered while I was working in a contemporary art gallery, that people feel that it's such a pristine and sort of religious environment and religious collection show there, that you wouldn't feel any connection to it, and you would feel kind of close far from you. So I feel like this gives a bit more familiarity and more sort of curiosity to explore and look at art and heritage in a more relaxed way, being more open to learn about it. So I do see the value of it, not only in the experience itself, but the perception that we have on collections. So yeah, thank you for that.